How you like that?
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Kingdom Men TransforMANation podcast. I got my buddy Tyler Woodall today, and I want to do a quick intro and a shout out to our sponsor, Acquisition CEO, who is a 7 to 8 figure business acquisition specialist. They teach people how to acquire businesses with $0 down. So Tyler has been in business for himself for quite a while and has quite a bit of business acumen for us, I'm sure. Tyler specializes in VAs and helping insurance agencies be more effective at what they do. So, Tyler, you want to tell us just a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, man. So basically, business is called Agency Aid. And what we do is we have 150 plus training modules that we take virtual assistants through, teaching them everything they would need to be successful inside of an insurance agency. So how to run quotes, how to do customer service tasks, handling admin, et cetera. And then we staff these VAs for insurance agencies around the country. That's our core competency. We help them build out standard operating procedures, automation, et cetera, anything that would help the business to grow and then eventually free up time for that business owner. But core competency and what we're really good at is the VA side of things.
So you teach insurance agencies how to be more effective with their time by utilizing virtual assistants, right?
Yeah, that's the goal.
It's kind of the 10-second, 1,000-foot overview of it.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about your story, how you arrived at this destination, because that's something people would probably find fun to hear.
Yeah. So basically, I was in college trying to figure out what I wanted to do, didn't know, had a really great mentor. And he said, look, I know these guys in insurance and they've been incredibly successful. I think if you got into it, went after commercial insurance, you bust your tail for a few years, I think you can make a really good living and income. And I was like, all right, sounds good for me. Got into insurance, made a deal with the guy that I started with that once I felt ready, I could purchase my customer base and roll off into the sunset. That's what we did. Grew my agency for a while. And then in the process of doing that, started seeing, hey, I need help inside my business, was struggling to hire people. Read a book called The E-Myth that absolutely changed my life. And it taught me how to build standard operating procedures and then start to delegate those to other people. Had a friend that had an Amazon store that was hiring VAs to run a bunch of stuff. And I said, I could probably teach a VA to do 70+% of my tasks right now. And started doing it, had success, realized I enjoyed that side of things a lot. So I made a business doing it, started working with agencies around the country, decided I don't love the insurance side of things and it takes a lot of my time. I cringe when my phone rings for somebody to buy insurance. So sold that business, doubled down on what I liked, have a killer team now. We've got everything documented so the business can kind of roll without me. Largely, it can run without me. It needs me to grow and innovate. And so that's been something I've been learning and figuring out. All right, how do I continue to add systems so that it can do more stuff without me?
So a couple of key takeaways there. First off, you had to start somewhere, and you started in something you actually didn't really end up liking.
Yep.
Right, which is a myth that a lot of people they think has to go. Oh, I got to find the magical one thing. And so probably the takeaway from that is no, just go do one thing and then see what happens, and then learn in the journey. Like read some books, study some processes, and then pay attention to what that looks like so that you can adapt. And then you go, oh, well, I like this piece over here. And then you were able to, because you did the one thing you didn't really so much enjoy, you're able to take that and that skill set and the things that you were learning and apply it into creating a whole totally different business that really set you free from your phone.
Yep.
I mean, you just got back from hiking Mount Kilimanjaro, right?
Yep, exactly.
Mount Kilimanjaro. That's pretty awesome. And
wild.
pretty rare. I don't actually know anybody else that hiked Mount Kilimanjaro. So give us like a short synopsis of what that looked like.
It was a blast, man. One of the most fun things I've ever done in my life. So we started out, honestly, days 1 through 5 were so much fun. It felt like just a normal climb, didn't feel too difficult, just hiking through. hiking up this mountain. We start out in the jungle, then you get above the timberline, then you're seeing the different elevation changes, starting to get some effects of altitude. But then day 6 is where it kicked hard. So we were sleeping at about 15,000 feet above sea level. And at 1:15 a.m., we start hiking that morning to
So
get to,
it took 6 days before it got hard.
yeah.
So that's what I want people to put into perspective is like, it wasn't like you went for a walk and it was like, man, this is tough. You had been hiking for 6 whole days before this moment arrived.
So, and I was talking with our guide about that at one point. I was like, it's kind of funny. We have to suffer all this before we even get the chance to know if we're tough enough to do
Correct.
the thing we
Before
came to do.
you had to suffer for 6 days before you got to suffer.
Yep, exactly. And I hate the cold. I'm born and raised in the South. And so sleeping in freezing temperatures, shivering myself to sleep in a sleeping bag was not fun. Sleeping on the ground. It is what it is. But so 1:15 a.m. that morning, day 6, we get up. It's -5 degrees. So I have 5 layers on. I was taking malaria medicine. So starting day 3, I had a fever every day from the malaria meds. So we start hiking up 2 hours into this hike. Remember, -5 degrees. So your water freezes, your camelback freezes. So I had a little half-liter bottle of water because I knew that was coming, wrapped in 2 wool socks. So you had a little bit of water to drink. But while we're going up, my kidneys start killing me. My lungs were killing me. My heart rate was at 130 before we even started hiking that morning. Just the altitude, fever, etc. 35 minutes in.
Still, the 6 days, all that, and then you're like, okay, let's go do the hardest part of the journey.
Yep. So 35 minutes in, I was ready to quit. And I started doing the math and I was like, I got a long way to go. But so 6:50, I hit the summit. And so it just showed me, hey, I wanted to quit at 35 minutes. I was able to go 5.5 hours longer. Then we had to go 3 hours down the mountain, took an hour nap, and then walked another 5 hours to the next camp. And so,
which is just all crazy. I don't know if anybody that will listen to this has suffered very much for very long, but usually we think of suffering. Oh, here's that national alert thing.
I just got it too.
A lot of people that suffer, it takes so long. It's okay. And we're capable of doing a lot more when we build, our mindset on something that we really want to accomplish. You've said you hated it. You hate sleeping in the cold, but here you are 6 days in and the hardest part, and you go 35 minutes in, and then you're like, well, I guess I got another 5.5 hours. Let's just keep going. Yep. And then you had to hike back down and then back to another, and then you took a nap, I think, right? Then you
it took like an hour-and-a-half nap, and then we'll hike to the next one. And it's funny. So there was only one other guy in my group, this guy, Michael from Wales, and he and I like yell out my tent to him. Neither one of us feels like we can even stand. Our legs are just so gassed at this point. We're so tired, and we're like, I don't know how we're going to make it to the next camp. And it was just one of those things, like, there's no option not to, so you just got to do it.
And that's a great point. Like, there's no option not to. Like, you could either lay there and die, or get up and go take a walk.
Yep.
But what did that teach you in life, or even in business? A lot of times, one of the things I like to say is keep going, and we should get good at not quitting, because there's always something hard. There's always something weird. Just like before we got on this call, we were talking about technology and things that we're both trying to overcome, and there's always something to overcome. So how does that whole trip and that whole hiking experience like take your mindset to the next level in your business ideas?
Well, I know that 2 nights ago I was at the track and I was planning to do 3 miles, and I finished the 3 miles, and I was like, less than a week ago, I was on this mountain getting my tail kicked, and that was hard. This is not hard. Why don't I just double what I just did? So then I ran another 3 miles and did 6 that night. So I think it's just showing me, hey, when you think you're tired and done, you got way more in the tank. So that's been good. But I think having a week away from my business was massive, because I came back and there were lots of stuff I was trying to solve. I came back with answers. And so we've been able to come in because I had that mental clarity, the freedom to think, came back and were able to solve a lot of issues we were working on. Had some ideas that have been kind of revolutionary to what we've been trying to do. Gave me freedom to think about, all right, what's my legacy look like? So once business is done, what am I here on this earth to do afterwards? So that's been cool.
So a couple of things there. You had said you had it wasn't that hard. You ran 3 miles and you're like, this isn't that hard. But now think about when things come up in life in the future and you go, like there's somebody over here and they're just complaining, oh, I can't do this, can't, and you're like, you're gonna look at them and be like, it ain't that hard.
Yeah.
And then you had the freedom to think. I think in business we get so hung up in having to be in our business a lot of times we forget the value and the significance of getting away from it for a little while because we get so hung up on the day to day that we can't look at the overall picture. I heard a story one time about a guy who said he worked his whole life cutting down a forest. Could be building a business, could be whatever you're doing in life. Spends a whole life cutting down a forest, gets to the end of his life and stands up and he's like, I cut down the wrong forest. He never took the time to stand up and look around and go, oh, I'm in the right spot. I'm doing the right thing. And I think that happens a lot in business. We end up working so hard for some story that we tell ourselves, and we end up cutting down the whole wrong forest. So giving yourself freedom to think, I like that. That's a great line right there. Sounds like a t-shirt.
There you go.
And so that's good stuff. I appreciate all that. I was sitting here laughing a little bit inside of my head. I remember that time we went up to Charlotte to see Rick.
No
And
kidding.
he called you, dude. We got to go see Rick because we're both in a very different place now.
Life's different.
Very different than the insurance man and the messy real estate agent. That was a funny journey, man.
It was funny. I'd love to go up there and just talk to him and show, hey, here's how life's different. Here's the things I learned from you teaching us that we applied. Here's the things that we didn't apply and why I think it's okay that we didn't.
So we both still have a beard.
Yep.
Okay. And neither
You
of us
shaved for a little while.
I did shave for a little while, but my wife decided that she liked a little beard, and you know what? I kind of like it too. So but it is funny, and there's a lot of presets in business about things like that, generational shifts. We could talk a lot about business and generational shifts from where, like, you grew up with your dad and seeing him work and those kind of things. And maybe we'll get you on another episode, but I try to keep these kind of tight, content, short. But real quick, we covered a couple of topics, things I love to talk about. The middle piece, we didn't really dig into the spiritual piece, and that's fine. But the physical piece, like, you fought through a battle. You had to wake up and make a decision to keep going. And then that applied, but you learned something that applied again later in life when you ran 3 miles and you're like, this is easy. And that's going to carry forward in your business when you're navigating something and you're beating your head against the wall. You're going to like sit up and go, this is easy.
Yep.
And then the physical part, like a lot of things in life, we don't spend enough time being physically fit, which I know you've done a really great job in the last 2 years. When we first became friends, I don't think you worked out much or were much into that.
Not regularly.
But now, man, I mean, you're in great shape, like pretty jacked, and so I'm proud of you in a lot of ways. It's been a fun journey to go on this business escapade over the last 3 years, I guess, and see where we've landed. But I appreciate you being on. If you got any quick tip, one last tidbit of information or like a mic drop that you can give somebody who's an entrepreneur or a man that's struggling out there with something in life?
I think one of the biggest things for me, this revelation came, obviously, about this. When I lost my dog at the beginning of this year, it just rocked me. And that's what changed my trajectory. Decided this isn't the business that I want. I need to get out. Here's what I do like. I need to double down. And I think that take a night or take a day, a weekend, and define what, if I could do anything in my life, what would my ideal life look like? What's my ideal day look like? How do I dress? What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? And start to curate your life, because it's not just going to happen. You don't fall into that. You have to intentionally build it and make it happen. And I'm 6 months down this road and I live a completely different life than I did 6 months ago. And so it doesn't take that long. Just if you have the focus and you have a plan, you can get there. But if you don't have a plan, I can assure you it's not going to happen.
So you nailed it. And that's exactly what I love teaching men how to do is create that roadmap of get honest about where they're at in life. Because a lot of times we lie to ourselves and we're just okay being good.
Yep.
But there's a lot of things in the way of becoming the greater version of ourselves, and that has to do with clarity. Like when your dog passed and you're like, you kind of wake up and you're like, man, what am I doing? And then getting honest with yourself about where you're at, and that's hard to do. And then going, like you mentioned, the specifics. What do I want to look like? What do I want to dress? How do I want life to look? A lot of people that I talk to, they don't know. I say, when you're 50 years old, what does life look like? And they're like, I don't know. Or they say, I want to be wealthy or healthy or whatever. I'm like, specifically, like, what do you want to drive? What year, make, and model? How much do you want to weigh? What size house do you want to live in? What do you want your monthly income to be? How many date nights do you want to go on with your wife? How much time do you want to spend with your kid? Hours per day or week? Like, let's get specific and then build that roadmap and walk towards that vision. I use the idea of a GPS destination a lot, right? So if you plug in a GPS destination in your GPS, it's going to have a state, a zip, a street number, a street, and a city. A lot of things, it's going to take you to an exact spot or latitude, longitude. It's going to take you to a spot, but it's very specific. But a lot of times in our own lives, we don't have that GPS destination.
Mm-hmm.
So give myself a little pitch there. If you're curious or interested in developing that, hit me up at bekingdommen.com because I love helping men discover who they want to become by the time they're 50 years old and avoid being fat, broke, and miserable. And so great tidbit of information. I agree 100,000%. And the other little last piece of that I want people to pick up on is it doesn't take that long. If you dig in for 6 months, you can change almost everything in your life, but it takes a lot of intentionality.
Yep.
So, man, that's awesome stuff.
Sweet.
Well, I appreciate having you on today. Proud of you, man. Keep trucking, keep going, and at you.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
See you, man.